Hey, 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 asymmetric flow, one way to go. Buy low when the market dips, sell high, link the curves. Collateral shifts, no need to think. Got my 0 to 1, constant price of product. P0 reference, X0 rate, hyperbolic edge, parametric twist, carbon ignites, DeFi ignites, strategy loops, buy, sell, repeat, MEV block, no sandwich, concentrated power, capital type, curves adjust, on-chain fly, carbon ignites, DeFi ignites, carbon ignites, DeFi ignite. Orders live, tweak without the close, range-bound biz, where the action grows, no impermanent loss, just trading views, bid-ass fees, market maker cues, Link pairs, pulse, Ethereum core, arbitrage bots, some from Bangkok, roots to future floors, decentralized orders, open doors, got my bins, invariants, carbon evo, stories untold, DeFi remake, in code we trust, asymmetric thrust, parametric dust. Carbon ignite, DeFi ignite, strategy loop, buy, sell, repeat, MEV block, no sandwich, concentrated power, capital type, curves adjust, on-chain fly, carbon ignites, DeFi ignites, carbon ignite, DeFi ignite.
I find myself more and more now like just going back to the COTI technical docs and just rereading it. And like I haven't really done that for a project other than my own like since 2019. So like I am I am sincerely excited to see COTI up and running, and yeah, it's been such a delight to learn about the history of garbled networks, confidentiality, preserving, transaction processes. It's really beautiful.
What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 38 of COTI Confidential. And we have some special guests in the room. Welcome back, Dr. Mark and Jen from Bangkok Carbon DeFi. How's it going, guys?
Hey, guys.
Hey, thank you so much for having us. It's so nice to be back. And what a cool start to the show. Like I smiled and was kind of bopping around that entire time. You really do it up. I have to say, I love being here.
We were both grooving in the green room there, but you couldn't see it. But yeah, that's how we do it here. But Mark, that was one of the nicest things we had ever heard said on the show until then. So really a pleasure having you both back for this one. Usually we jump into Soren's weekly update, and then I'm gonna go back in time there's a couple clips I want to run from previous shows. One I think was in February, and then one was in June. And we're going to go to the follow-up from those shows. But without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic to Soren, and let's kick it off with our weekly update.
Yeah, and before I start, let me just echo, it's great to see you two guys again. It seems like forever that we met up in Bangkok, so I've been looking forward to this. So, let's do a very quick...
I was delighted to get your invitation.
We're delighted you could make it all, both of you. So brilliant. Let me do this one very quickly because we got so many things to talk about. As usual, almost it's been an absolutely manic week with movement on a lot of fronts. It's getting really, really hard to keep up with everything that's going on in the ecosystem. We started off with last weekend with the hydrogen hard fork, where the main focus was on speed and stability. There was a few other technical things that I wouldn't even begin to understand them. Mark probably would. But basically, this is an initial unlock for more privacy features. And we got the Helium hard fork coming up in about 6 to 8 weeks, according to Shahaf. That'll be an even bigger unlock, probably the ultimate unlock for most of the privacy features that we're going to see. So privacy is starting to trend really like crazy on socials. And there's a concerted effort from everyone from Shahaf and all the way down through the team to try and keep up with the community in engaging with as many privacy-related posts as possible. And it's a great way to spread the word on what COTI is building. So super. We couldn't ask for a stronger narrative, I think, right now, considering where blockchain and crypto is in general. Some ecosystem news. Privex is really starting to run hot right now with trading volumes blasting past the 200 million mark. The data from yesterday is at about 226 million. And considering this is the amazing part about this is that Privex hasn't really started switching on all the good stuff yet. So they haven't deployed their trading agents yet, and they haven't switched on the privacy features yet. I'm led to believe that the privacy features will be switched on probably just after the Helium hard fork. And of course, as I've said before, in my opinion, these are vanity metrics, but they help COTI tremendously by being very high up the charts for perp dexes on a network basis. So they put COTI in top 25, and they help us a lot with the total value locked as well. So it's a great marketing tool, and it also shows that there are interest in perp dexes, and especially those with state-of-the-art features coming. So I think the sky's the limit for Privex. I think we haven't seen anything yet. We've also added another partner to our ecosystem, which is a very, very exciting new use case. Reveille is an AI-powered messaging app that will allow users to call, message, and make crypto transactions, both on and offline. They'll be deploying garbled circuits eventually to secure all this. And I cannot stress enough the importance of having as many use cases as possible. And the effort is very, very deliberate from COTI's side, rather than to look for having 6 perp dexes and 12 dexes and all that stuff. They're looking much more in the realm of, what use cases have we not fulfilled yet? What have we not done yet? That is a use case for garbled circuits. Let's go look for that. And this is a very good example of that. COTI Connect, episode 10, with Mr. Tracer hit us this week. Great discussion, really great discussion with both Syncra, Statwick, and Accumulated. And of course, updates from Shahaf and Joshua. Syncra and Statwick in particular, they are live on the ecosystem, or they are live on the network using garbled circuits. So, and I think we will be getting, maybe this coming week or the week after, we'll be getting some content to give everyone an exact idea of how, for instance, Statwick deploys garbled circuits on the vaccine ledger. The update from Joshua, which everyone needs to go and see this. This is 9 minutes. Tracer published it after the COTI Connect. It's a 9-minute blueprint of exactly what Joshua is doing for the grassroots build out with Yaru. It is absolutely amazing, and you can really you can see the logic in everything that he's building, and this is going to make the flywheel spin really, really fast. The first cohort have already started the 6-week boot camp, where they'll learn to build and deploy their ideas and dreams. And this is going to be an absolute beast, and it's gonna supercharge our ecosystem once it starts compounding. Very, very nice. In that context, remember that applications are always open as well for the COTI Networks Builders Program. If you have an idea, you already started building with a view to deploying on COTI, but you're looking for support, maybe for hardware, maybe you want to employ 1 or 2 people, get in touch, apply for a grant. We're giving out grants anywhere from $1,000 to $100,000, depending on your project and depending on your needs. So there's definitely something in that for people who are building. Last but not least, we had a great 1-hour discussion with the Cardano Foundation, where Joshua took part. He spoke along with 3 other stablecoin projects on Cardano on some of the issues that Cardano is facing in terms of participation in what is actually now a rather large ecosystem that is not seeing enough usage, basically. So it's quite an interesting discussion, and it was a good opportunity for Joshua to make sure everyone understands that we got wrapped jet, private jet, multi-chain jet. We got all sorts of different jets coming. So and it's going to be the first truly private stablecoin. Not the last one, but it's going to be the first one. And yeah, that was pretty much the update for this week. So I kept it a little bit short because we got a lot of things to go through, the 4 of us tonight. So there we are.
Thanks, man. Awesome as always. So let's jump right into it here. I want to play a clip because I'm interested to hear what Mark and Jen have to say about this. Let me play the clip first, and then we'll chat.
How many months are we? 3 months away, 6 months away, 12 months away from removing geofencing in your sort of ballpark best guess?
If you had asked me at the beginning of the year, I would have said that it would have happened by now. So, and it's important to realize that the landscape is sort of like it's always changing. So, you know, at the moment things seem relatively calm.
What?
And I would say that, you know, 3 to 6 months would be I think a pretty realistic timeline. But it's you know, that could change tomorrow. Like maybe you know, Donald Trump and Elon Musk make up.
Oh my God!
And now Elon Musk is back and is some sort of, you know, governmental financial regulator or something. Like instead of doing government efficiency, now he's doing, you know, FDIC work or something. You know, like things happen just that quickly.
I wanted to see if I could make Jen laugh, and you guys couldn't see it, but it worked. But Mark, you had like perfect foresight on this for us, because a few months later, and it was a big deal for us, we were able to open up the treasury to US users. So I'm curious, you know, how you're feeling now, and specifically, where is Bancor and Carbon DeFi in that?
Yeah, with respect to the geofencing issue specifically, like remember we've got a little bit more inertia, right? Bancor being like the first DeFi protocol ever has, you know, been under the microscope. I think you know, a lot more than I think people realize. So we have, you know, essentially on a first name basis with you know, some of the really big regulatory authorities around the world. And because of those, you know, relationships, we're often held to a slightly higher bar, not necessarily because that's expected or reasonable, but just because of the level of familiarity these regulatory agencies have with us, mean that, you know, we have to be on our best behavior just because they know who we are and are always paying attention to us. But, you know, that comes with certain advantages as well. So we usually get a much better idea of which way the wind is blowing, when it comes to the regulatory climate. And, happy to say that specifically for the United States, it does look like things are becoming a lot more liberal. That shouldn't be too surprising. We just saw that, CZ was just, pardoned, which is, generally sort of a good sign with the way that, the regulatory, the regulatory attitude is shaping up in the United States. So yeah, the signals are all good. I don't think that COTI was too early or something with this. I think that, for a project like the COTI blockchain, it makes a lot of sense to move on that very quickly. And Bancor will as well. We just can't do it too soon, and we've got the advantage and disadvantage of being able to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, when it's the right time and when it isn't.
And it's an interesting point you make there, and maybe it's because you're an exchange, not just because you're one of the first, but also because you're an exchange. Because I see the team from Privex, who's also building on COTI, they haven't removed the geofencing either. So
yeah, exchanges
maybe it's an exchange issue as well. The type of business.
Exchanges are extremely sensitive, particularly from the U.S. perspective, because the way that the U.S. regulates is by enforcement, right? So it's not it's not like the rest of the world where there's kind of a discussion that you have with your regulator. The way that it works in the United States is that the law is interpreted and then figured out exactly what it is by taking people to court. That's just how it works, and it can be a very expensive and stressful process. With regard to exchanges in particular and how it's shaping up in cryptocurrency everywhere, is that even though the regulatory attitude is changing, it's not changing on everything. And so things like offering leverage to retail is something that the US regulator, even under Donald Trump, feels very strongly about. And there's no shortage of, of case precedent where that's, effectively, jumping off a cliff when it comes to, inviting the regulator to take you to court. So leverage style stuff can be very problematic. Now, Bancor doesn't offer leverage, but we have precedent from projects like Shapeshift, who were taken to court, that even if you are not necessarily offering leverage to retail directly, if there is a token that represents leverage in some way, for example, there are products like index co-ops, 2x FLI, which is just a standard ERC20 token. And the way that it represents leverage is that it's effectively redeemable for the underlying at some velocity magnitude, right? So if the price of ETH changes by 10% in a day, the price of that token will change by 20% in a day or something like that. It has now been shown, by way of court process in the United States and from opinion letters and other things, that those tokens, if offered on an exchange like Bancor, would be considered that Bancor is offering leverage to retail. And so it's these kinds of things that we need to navigate very carefully. This is why, for example, Uniswap has removed from its front end the ability to see these kinds of tokens, right? So you can, those tokens are still on the smart contracts and still tradable, but anything that the Uniswap lawyers have identified as belonging to a certain asset class that might be interpreted as leverage to retail gets screened, effectively gets blackballed from the front end and things like that. So yeah, you're right. The exchange climate is a little bit more turbulent, and the not just the scale of the minefield, but the the size of the explosives attached to those mines in a legal sense is much more dramatic than something like opening up treasury, something to retail investors. So yeah, it's a slightly different maze to navigate.
And when we do look at perp dexes, they are nothing but leverage. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
perp is just pure, unfiltered, unadulterated leverage plays. Yeah. So, all right. So yeah, I get what you're saying there. That makes total sense.
I should point out though
So
that in the rest of the world that it's not as controversial. So like from the Swiss perspective, I think if I remember how that conversation went, something like 2xFLI being offered on with a user creating a strategy with it on Carbon is not considered an issue, and it's not considered as banker offering leverage to users. But the US perspective is very different. And this is why geofencing becomes necessary.
So I know, Mark, you're always traveling all over the place. So when we talked to Jen, she said, well, I'm going to have to check to see if he'll be available for that. So let's put Jen on the spot really quickly here. And I believe the last time you guys were with us was June 8th. This is about 4 months. So in just a quick summary, what you guys have been working on in the last 4 months, Jen? Like, you guys are pumping socials all the time. So you guys got a lot of chains integrating with Carbon. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's always a ton going on, really, and it's in all different directions, right? So it's obviously supporting things that the blockchains that we're deployed on are doing, like COTI Earn. Obviously we want to get really kind of amplify that messaging and make sure that our community from other blockchains know about this, as well as our longtime community members who may not have made it over to COTI yet. So things of that sort. There's always new licensees, potential licensees, new blockchains that we may be deploying on. The community has been extremely active recently. We had a couple of community calls and we really hadn't had them in a while. And so I think this is one of those things that I'm personally really pushing at the moment, because they want to understand. They're becoming more and more interested. Why are we deploying, or is Bancor deploying on these specific chains? What is it about them? Where does that come in? And so it's nice having them become really interested in what you guys are actually doing, what other chains are actually doing and offering, and kind of where Bancor steps in and maybe fills a role in that sense as well. And then I think they're also really interested. Mark has mentioned a couple of times, so I don't think it's a secret, but he's working on something new. And so that's something that is in the works. I did mention, and I haven't mentioned it outside of the COTI Confidential group. So, I might as well on the COTI Confidential call, but the UI is getting an entirely new, we call it kind of like a facelift, I guess, but it's a little bit more than a facelift. And I'm super, super stoked on that. It's been about, 2.5 years since Carbon is deployed. And so you say it's the MVP, you get all the feedback. And I think so many things just started happening so fast that this really wasn't a priority, right? Like, the app is out and everybody can go and create their strategies and you kind of add things here and there. But now it's at a point where it was like, okay, let's take this back and really create this UI that is intuitive and informative. There are so many different parts of Carbon DeFi that you would never know about by just going to the app. So I think it's really exposing all of these things to users, the benefits of them. You should think about slippage and sandwich attacks when you go in as a trader, right? But the way that Carbon DeFi is created. So we're really looking to expose these things. So, and then of course, conferences. I know COTI is always at different conferences, and whether it's Brad or it's others within the team, we've been doing the same on the Bancor side. And one of the co-founders, A.L. Herzog, you might have heard mention him a couple of times, just had his first appearance in quite some time up on stage with Mark. So that was awesome to see. So yeah, lots and lots of moving parts all the time.
Obviously,
okay, I'm going to jump in here before. No. Stop. Because I had a feeling she might front run this. Okay. And so let me play a clip first, because we got to go back to this. So give me a second here.
Mark is so secretive when it comes to the things that he's working on. He'll always tell you, I hold my card close to my chest. I don't really like to tell what I'm working on, but I will say, and this is because he had done a recent interview that was just put out there, that he is working on something and for, obviously Bancorn Carbon DeFi. And what it is, he doesn't specify, but he was saying that he's, surprising himself, seeing what it actually is. And to the extent that he personally didn't think and doesn't believe that anybody else really would, that this sort of thing is achievable in smart contracts. So I don't know what that is. I don't think he's going to tell us what that is, but he's definitely working on something. And the time frame, just because they squeezed it out of him, which normally doesn't happen either, if he had to guess, he was saying about 6 months. So I will maybe take that one off of your plate, Mark. So you're welcome.
A few moments later.
I want to know what Mark's cooking that even has him impressed by himself. It's gonna be absolutely out of this world. Now I can't wait 6 months, Mark.
That was a misquote. I promise you I would never be so arrogant to say that about myself.
Well,
We would never take it that way.
Maybe I misquoted him. I might have paraphrased, but
we love it. I mean, it's always super interesting when people are cooking up something, and you have this feeling it's gonna be special, and I do have that feeling with you guys.
I had a feeling that you might go there, Jen. So I probably should have played it first. And so I'm going to jump Mark in. And yeah, I get it, man. You can't tell us anything about it, but just wouldn't mind hearing just, like Jen said, you didn't know if it was going to happen. And now it sounds like it's happening. So just your thoughts on that, whatever you can tell us anyways.
Yeah, so I can tell you it's a significant body of work. So I think just recently in the in the Banco Telegram channels, I have said that it's currently, so as of right now, and I was working on it, moving into the call that you and I have now, currently on page 95, an equation 496. Right, so it's an extremely large document, and I've tried to make sure that everything is asserted with reason, right? So a lot of the time you'll find, especially in DeFi and blockchain, people will sort of say something and then not really go to the effort of like rigorously proving it, right, from first principles. And so in this particular case, I thought that it was warranted that every single thing that I say have at least a formal proof or a provenance for like where these claims kind of come from, that sort of thing. And so yeah, it's getting very long in the tooth now, but almost complete. I'm up to the sort of internal peer review sort of part of this process, where like I'm now confident that I'm right on everything that I say there. But there's probably, when you get to 100 pages, there's definitely, formatting errors and typing errors and that kind of thing that needs to be caught before it goes out. But this is a relatively fast compared to the work that goes into producing it in the first place. So in terms of the underlying theory, it's now completed. It's now just making sure that everything is written down correctly and presented appropriately, and then it can go out the door. So I've given myself sort of a hard deadline for having the document finished and going through formal review internally by the end of October. And I expect then that it will only be a week or 2 or 3 before I can submit it to, as a provisional patent, and then we can finally reveal it to everyone. So it's very, very close.
I have a feeling that Soren has a question, so you were excited to hear about this, so I'll let you.
Yeah, no, I'm actually excited about 2 things. But seeing as we're talking about this, I mean, this sounds like a brand new, and maybe you can't say it, that's fine. Especially not if there's patents involved. You got to be super careful. But this sounds like a complete new Banco project or product.
Yeah, I don't want to say completely new. So like everything in some sense is always, everything is kind of built on a shared foundation, if you like. This is what some people mean when they say there's nothing new under the sun, right? Like even the AI models of today are based on, an article that was written in 1964. You know, like the things kind of propagate in a way that you know, it always stems from concepts or theory that existed before it. But yeah, in this particular case, I've found a specific way to generalize things that it seems hasn't occurred to anyone before, either you know, in DeFi or out of DeFi. So yeah, it is it's tying together, you know, like some of the citations that I've had to include in this thing go back to like the 1800s, right? It's like how old some of this theory is.
That is serious stuff.
Yeah, and so you know, it has a full literature review for like how this idea sort of coalesced and sort of what the necessary foundations are. But what's interesting about it is that it is a generalization. So what I've managed to show is that within this framework, you can describe you know, you can describe things that exist. Like you can describe things like Carbon DeFi, you can describe things like Bancor V1. But now that the generalization is complete, you can describe things that don't exist and can't be achieved in either of those paradigms. So yeah, you know, it's not new in the sense that it would be you know, a huge learning curve to understand what it means. But what is surprising is that these things haven't been considered before, I think. So yeah, it's still an exchange, you know. I'm still working on exchange algorithms. It's just that the you know, the language and model that I'm developing is, you know, is powerful enough that you can describe things, algorithms that wouldn't be possible using the AMM theory that exists currently.
I have so many questions, and I am excited to, like, Jen, make sure that you let me know when some of that stuff starts popping off, because we definitely want to hear about it.
We're going to be
no, absolutely. No, you guys can come to the peer review. I'll talk to Mark about it. Maybe we'll all three of us can look through those equations and just double check his math. Just make sure where he needs to.
I'll serve the sandwiches. I'll serve the sandwiches. Okay, I'll do the catering.
The tacos, please.
I'll volunteer to.
Yes, let's go.
Yeah, the punctuation, you leave it with me, no issues.
I'll just cheerlead. I'll just cheer you guys on and serve you coffee. So no, but absolutely. Like, real note, you know, once this all starts coming out and we start talking about this publicly, and the provisional is Mark is comfortable, 100%. I'll let you guys know. I think this is something that a lot of us have been waiting patiently for. You know, it was like equation number 250, equation number 450, you know, and we're like, what is happening over there, Mark? You know, so it's always funny to me when community members are like, why isn't Mark ever in the channels? And I'm like, because he's
working.
Got way bigger fish to fry right now. I'm like, I'm here. You know, you can talk to me and hang out, but I'll let you go.
I haven't done this much writing since my PhD. I'm starting to get like carpal tunnel now. Like I feel like writing this much is a young man's game. You know, I'm starting to think about ergonomics of the keyboard and things, which is something that I've never had.
You're just now starting to think about this. Something tells me you're lying.
What's that?
You're just now starting to think about this? Like,
think about ergonomics on a keyboard? No. I've often, whenever it's come up, I'm like, no, that's stupid. Why would anyone want an ergonomic keyboard? But now I'm regretting rejecting it so soon.
Funny.
I just have a picture in my head of Mark on the plane with his you know, strap-on keyboards on his knees. You know, he's just one of those guys. That's what I'm seeing. Sorry, Soren, I stepped on you, man.
No worries. But it's actually quite interesting because so you got this brand new thing that you've been working on like a mad for so long, and at the same time, so you know, as far as the COTI ecosystem goes, we are normally more interested what Carbon DeFi is up to. Yeah, but obviously I see loads of postings about ARP Fastlane. And that seems to be flying, absolutely flying. You're breaking records, you're integrating with new chains all the time. How is all that going?
Really well.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
guess
no, I
my
think
question is, from what starting point is Arblane exploding? So relatively speaking, is it massive, or is it just that you started with one chain, now you're at two or three, or how is that? How do you guys see that?
yeah. So okay. So in general, when we have a deployment of Carbon DeFi on a specific chain, or when a licensee deploys on a specific chain, it becomes a huge priority to then get the ARP Fastlane there, because you want that kind of execution certainty offered to users when when they're quoting a certain price, that it gets filled in a timely way. And then, so in the beginning, the ARP Fastlane it's really just about making sure that carbon is appropriately handled. I like to say that, it makes bad assumptions good assumptions by, coming in and deliberately filling the role of an arbitrageur who helps, equilibrate carbon with the rest of the market. After that, we started to think, well, maybe we should, instead of just focusing on carbon, we should allow it to close any arbitrage that it finds, even if it doesn't involve a carbon position. So that was kind of the next step up. But every time you make these changes, the sheer enormity of data that needs to be processed is absolutely like breathtaking. You think about how many liquidity pools there are just in something like Uniswap V2. It's like hundreds of thousands of discrete liquidity pools. And those things are changing all the time. And on a blockchain like Ethereum, you only have to update the database every 12 seconds. But on something like Sei, you would have to update it, 3 times a second. And so the size of the data set is really challenging. And then you also need to be able to optimize, right? Analyze that data every 12 seconds and so on. And so as we start to annex these new challenges, the system itself becomes more optimized, right? Because you end up stress testing it in a way that you hadn't before, and this results in architectural changes and infrastructure changes and that sort of thing. And so because of that, it has to, right? And because of that, it is a constantly iterating system. And sometimes you end up with something that you're extremely happy with. And then sometimes, there's something breaks somewhere in that system, and it can be very difficult to find it. So it comes in waves, right? And especially because the success of this thing is really dependent on the market environment as well, right? So as volatility goes up, obviously it performs very well and processes a very large number of transactions. And sometimes it won't do anything at all, and you think it's broken, but it's actually just because the market's not doing anything. So it can be a very stressful, part of the bankroll infrastructure to manage. But yeah, it's constantly growing, getting more sophisticated. We're always learning how to better monitor it, how to manage it, and how do we improve the underlying architecture and make it as efficient and fast as possible.
One follow-up question for this, Mark, if you don't mind, because you were talking, you sort of brought it up yourself that it works more when there's volatility, and it sort of sits quietly when there's none. We had Black Friday a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And a lot of the centralized exchanges did not pass that exam.
Right.
And a lot of the decentralized exchanges, at least they claimed to have had no issues whatsoever. How did you guys fare in all that?
Yeah, not a problem.
Probably
So
would have fared very well because you sort of thrive on that.
Yeah, exactly right. So I think for this isn't special to Banco necessarily, but yeah, generally across DeFi, the fact that prices change quickly isn't a problem so long as your protocol isn't leveraged, right? And so, Bancor's products aren't leveraged protocols, so the fact that prices change quickly doesn't really matter. That's just, you're just processing a number like 1 instead of a number 3 or something. It doesn't really challenge the calculations in any way that would stress it beyond what it would usually do. In fact, sometimes small price changes are more stressful because you're at the limits of the precision that the system can actually process. Whereas with a large change, it's much easier to compute an accurate result. The issue for DeFi protocols was really the leveraged ones. So and the lending protocols and things with systemic risk built into them. Yeah, it really wasn't. If anything, things got easier during Black Friday, not more difficult.
It seemed to many people, Mark, that this was not just a market crash. It was somehow a very highly coordinated event. I wouldn't be able to differ one from the other, but obviously the wicks were extreme for some tokens that really went from $4 to 0. What are your thoughts on that? Did you, or do you have
It
any
certainly seems like
opinion on that?
Yeah, no, I have thoughts on it. So I think one of the things that it revealed is how dysfunctional some of the centralized exchanges really are. Because most people, even some DeFi protocols, trust the price quotes that they get on things like Binance and Coinbase and so on. But really, what you're doing when you're getting a price from them is kind of just asking their market maker to throw a number at you. I think most people expect, in order for a price to move up, it requires someone to buy that asset. And in order for a price to move down, it means that someone has to sell that asset. But that's really not how it works in centralized exchanges. The market maker just chooses the price. So if they wanted to, move the price 10x up, they can just quote a price that's 10x higher. And if they want to move the price 10x down, they can just quote a price that's 10x down. And what you saw was that what happens when there is no market making liquidity, right? So when none of the books aligned at all. And that's really what happened. There was let's say a mass exodus of liquidity that I don't entirely understand, but that's where those wicks came from, is that the very large liquidity providers, for some reason, were absent all of a sudden. And that meant that anyone who tried to interact with the books would cause the price to, we're basically able to completely clean the book out. And so for tokens like Atom, someone only had to try and sell like a handful of tokens, and it exhausted all of the bidding liquidity effectively down to 0. So the Atom token either had a price of 0, or it just didn't have a price at that moment in time. And that's what that wick looks like. But yeah, for DeFi protocols, especially, AMMs and decentralized limit order books like Carbon DeFi, it really doesn't make a difference what the market makers are doing on those exchanges, because even if the price wicks down to 0 on something like Atom, you can't actually fill an order on 0 volume, right? So the actual, like, some of these wicks are being completely misinterpreted, because if I could sell like 1 Bitcoin to my friend for $1, that doesn't mean the price of Bitcoin is $1, right? Like when people are thinking about the market price of something, they mean like an aggregated or consensus price for it. And during that window of time, the market was unable to find consensus because all of the the regular infrastructure that it's used to interacting with had basically vanished. So yeah, it was it's mostly an infrastructure problem. It could have been orchestrated. I haven't seen any good evidence that it was, but there were some people very suspiciously that were able to profit very, very highly from it. And this is where derivatives become super interesting, because unlike actual markets, derivatives trade only on what the quoted price is, regardless of volume. So coming back to that selling 1 Bitcoin to my friend thing, if that happened to be the source of truth that a derivatives market was using for estimating the price of Bitcoin, it actually would, award people funds based on the fact that the price went to $1. And so, yeah, the derivatives markets, I think, I've seen a lot of people start to reflect on whether or not the products that they're using are as safe as they thought it was, or that it even does what they thought that it did. I've tried to tell people that, in a lot of these, perpetual futures in any options protocol, you're really just betting on the price of something. It's like a horse race, but you don't actually need to fill any order. You're not really interacting with the marketplace for that thing. You're interacting with a derivative, right, of that thing. They're different things. And so, whereas the liquidity proper didn't exist, the price quotes still did, and that meant that it was possible to to short something down to zero and actually get paid, even if you couldn't have actually cleared an order at that price. So it was weird. I do suspect foul play, but everything in crypto is usually tainted with criminality anyway. So I don't think that this is exceptional. I think that it was just more pronounced maybe than
Yeah,
usual.
it was certainly not an exceptional event. It was the extent of it that was exceptional.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
But yeah, it's happened before. Like if you go to the Binance chart for the Chainlink token, you can see that it's actually wicked to zero a handful of times in the past. And it didn't get much media play because it wasn't super important. Again, like it's one of these like mysterious liquidity events. The token never went to zero, but that didn't stop Binance quoting it that way. And I suspect that if we have a look at the books there, that there probably was, these things usually coincide with the first time that token being offered on a perpetual futures market and things like that. So yeah, there's usually someone who's cooking the books somewhere and profiting somehow. And yeah, some of those people I think are being forced into the spotlight even now, but I don't think anything will come of it.
Do you think, Mark, with the rise of perp dexes like our own Privex and Hyperliquid and Aster, do you think this is going to happen more often? You think it's going to make no difference at all? Because that seems to be where, if I understood you correctly, that could sort of be where the issue could have originated from.
Yeah, I mean there's nothing wrong with trading perpetuals, right? And in general, the derivatives markets, like on top of normal markets, are always orders of magnitude larger than the market that they're supposed to be representing or derivatizing. But it's a completely different, it's a different thing. So yes, by their nature, derivatives will always invite catastrophe, just because they, of the nature of the financial instrument that they represent. So yeah, more trading in perpetuals will always eventually result in more catastrophe. But that's kind of why people trade them, right? Like it's the it's the excitement of
that's the lure.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
That's what the lure is, right? It's like saying that, will more casinos, like literal casinos, ever stabilize casinos? No, right? But that's also not why people attend casinos. They're not looking for stability. They're looking to get rich as quickly as possible. And unfortunately, there's no free lunches. So that comes with a commensurate amount of risk. And so, yeah, these things will continue happening and they will happen forever.
I'm personally super interested to see what happens when Privex switches on all the privacy features and traders can actually hide what they're doing. And I'm interested in it in the context of, are these traders actually interested in hiding what they're doing, or is flexing what they're doing, is that part of their thing? Because I get both vibes when I sort of check my timeline, that some of them actually don't seem to be interested in hiding these things at all.
Yeah, I think that there's the two facets that you've identified, I think actually are two different audiences as well. So there are people there are people who are interested in becoming more influential, let's say. And so the fact that they can make extremely large trades and try to get the same kind of fame or even infamy that people like Win of Hyperliquid are enjoying might be beneficial to them. I think that there's a certain credibility that you get by saying you're going to do something and then putting your money where your mouth is provably, so that people can verify, right, that your trades are successful. So people who are looking to improve their, let's say, authority as, you know, as a successful trader has little to gain by hiding, you know, their trading activity. But the people who don't care about their publicity, who are usually the more successful traders, do value their privacy, and it's for exactly the same reasons that Win eventually lost, right?
Yeah, that's the strange part, because the more open you are, you know you're going to get hunted. What's, you know,
exactly.
it seems illogical.
So the analogy I usually use is, imagine playing chess against someone, but where you have to tell them the next move that you're going to make before you make it, right?
Yeah.
The advantage is that if you know what your opponent is doing, then you can plan accordingly. This is the difficulty with especially trading with leverage that you face by not hiding the transactions. This is why things like, you know, COTI and garbled circuits are so important, because the people who take this seriously, who don't care about, you know, how many followers they have on Twitter, will prefer to not, you know, concede any advantage to their opponent. Make no mistake, right? When you're trading with those kinds of volumes, it is an adversarial environment, and you have everything to lose and nothing to gain by revealing how you're trading. The only reason you would do that is if, you know, if you are more motivated by your social media and influencer culture than you are your bottom line.
Gotcha.
I got to move us on because we're almost at the hour here, and I wanted to talk a little bit about AI and what Yaru is doing in Bangkok. So I'm going to go back to when we were all sitting on the couch in Bangkok, and we were talking about, I think it was vibe coding, the good, bad, and the ugly. Mark and Jen, I'm sure you've seen a little bit about what's going on in Bangkok with Yaru, and how they're going, you know, all in on this vibe coding and creator stuff. So I just wanted your thoughts, both of you. Is it now that, you know, since March and seeing what's happening with vibe coding and the power of AI and how it's, you know, progressed in just these few short months, are we where you thought we'd be? Is it going faster? Just your general thoughts on AI.
Jen, would you like to?
I don't mind going first. I'm not sure, you know, I don't remember exactly what my position was in Bangkok. But I know that I was much more optimistic about AI than I think Mark was. He was much more hesitant. And I think maybe his hesitation then is kind of what we're seeing now. I think it has opened up to so many people. It's offered so many opportunities for them. It's, you know, a door that's opened and allowed them to enter different industries that they really might not have been able to access or become involved with before. So I think for that aspect, it's wonderful. But I also think that as time goes on, we're seeing different sorts of exploits, different sorts of vulnerabilities, different things that are happening that could and have been a result of AI, whether it's coding within a project, you know, like relying strictly on the coding of like an AI. We're seeing a little bit of this. And so I think as much as there is that optimism, I think there is that hesitation as well. And I think we're approaching it now, not so much from the hype of it, but more from a sort of educated cautiously optimistic position. And I like seeing where we're at right now, because I think it's going to be a lot healthier for us and for the industry in the long run. So that's what I'm seeing. And I am familiar with what Yaru is doing. I think it's fantastic, not just because of, Steve Blockchain Week, but Mark was also a guest of theirs not long ago and did some things with them as well. We're looking forward to seeing them in Argentina also. But yeah, I mean, really fantastic things. I think opening the door to builders, to developers, introduce them to the COTI ecosystem, from all different angles, I think is always a plus, right? And so with AI involved, I definitely am supportive of what they're doing and how they're doing it, their actual approach in terms of the educational sort of guiding aspect.
So let me just play a quick clip and then we'll pass it over to Mark.
One is we have a basis of people who are empowered creators who know how to build, who know how to teach, how to build, how to leverage the AI tools. What we saw as we started building those out, people wanted to come and do things in person. We were working out of a co-working space. People would come into those co-working spaces and start building together and just trying to figure out how they actually create and solve problems using these AI tools. And so the next phase of that evolution very quickly became, let's have a center here in Bangkok where people can do two things. One is we have a basis of people who are empowered creators who know how to build, who know how to teach, how to build, how to leverage the AI tools, and they can be in very inexpensive flights and be sent out all across ASEAN, all across Asia to start as our starting point very quickly and start to replicate themselves in all of these population centers. And then next stage was how do we find the partners, like partners we've recently announced, whether that's ARC in Cambodia or Comet out of Laos, who already have networks of developers and builders and solopreneurs, kind of next generation creators, etc. And begin to partner with them so that way we can find the builders on the ground who want to build with these AI tools and bring them on blockchain.
So I'm going to pass the mic to you right away, Mark. But if you don't, just tell us about your experiences with Yaru and whatever else you wanted to hit there.
Yeah, look, I've been refining my my perspective on sort of AI generally over the last couple of months, and I use it every day, right? But I think I'm just naturally a contrarian. So when everyone is getting super excited for something, even if it was something I was previously excited about, I start to hate it. I guess it's this horrible hipster demon in my head that's trying to, only likes things before it's cool. With AI in general, I think that the cultural reaction to it should be given, I think, more attention than it has, rather than what the technology is actually capable of, more like how people are treating it. Because there's really two camps at the moment. And it's very polarizing. You have people like, Jonathan Blow, who thinks that it's completely useless. John Blow is a really fantastic, programmer. He's building his own programming language, phenomenal engineer, doesn't really have a use for AI, and doesn't think the tools are very good. And then you've got people like, the CEO of Coinbase, who is planning to replace all of his engineers with AI tools. And I think that probably both of these extremes are wrong, and there's likely to be sort of some middle ground. But I've also been paying attention to, how universities are handling AI tools when it comes to students preparing essays and things like that. And it reminded me of when I was in, grade 5 or grade 6. I had a computer in my house, and I remember using a word processor to produce, a project for school. And I was marked down, I had points removed from me because I used a computer to produce it, whereas people that were handwriting it were given preference. And looking back, you'd think that was a complete waste of time. You know, like, why would you be encouraging people to handwrite documents when, if you're preparing them for a workforce or, you know, skills for later in life and that sort of thing? It's absolutely necessary to learn how to use a word processor and, you know, create documents using a computer and so on. And then in university, I remember for physics, you also had to, you know, you'd run experiments and have to hand plot data, you know, like on grid paper and things. And I said, you know, why are we doing this? Like, I know how to use Excel. I just want to get Excel to do it for me. It's going to be faster. It's going to look better. You know, like, this is a complete waste of time. No scientist in their right mind is, you know, pulling out reams of graph paper to plot their results. Like, you know, it's silly to not be training people to use the tools when they're available. And similarly, you know, now with universities trying to screen against AI, and they do this thing where you have to actually like record your screen while you're typing your assignment so that, you know, you can prove that you didn't use an AI to generate it. And I'm beginning to think that this, again, is completely the wrong approach. Now that the tool is here, we should be teaching people how to make it generate a really good essay. You know, like, use the tool that you have, and it requires just as much skill and insight and knowledge to make an AI, you know, produce something that's actually worth handing in.
Use it responsibly and smartly.
Exactly. It's just a tool. That's all it is, right? It's what Excel was in 1996. It's what, you know, Google search and Wikipedia was in 2001. You know, it's a thing here that we now have. Now, all of those things have changed the world, right? Word processors replaced typewriters and we're never going back. And Wikipedia replaced Encarta and Britannica and we're never going back. I do think that AI has that sort of transformative power. But where I think society is kind of losing their grip on reality is that it is just a tool. You cannot, as an unskilled person, approach an AI and think that it's going to be able to do all of the things that you don't understand or know how to do, right? It requires supervision and skill to make it cooperate. So during the call I had on the vibe coding, we were looking at carbon and that sort of thing. And there occasionally we had to sort of guide the AI in a way that requires you to actually understand what it's dealing with. You know, but we had to sort of split it out and actually talk about how the data is encoded in the smart contracts and that sort of thing. Otherwise, it's just going to hallucinate answers. So I think just like any tool, like computers were super popular, like, you know, super powerful, and they've become increasingly, you know, popular with time since they sort of entered homes in a mainstream way in sort of the early 90s. But it didn't displace anything, right? It made like everyone kind of benefited together. But it required adopting a new skill set and taking seriously your responsibility to learn how to use it. And I think that AI is the same, right? It by itself, in unskilled hands, is going to produce garbage. But in skilled hands, it produces really excellent results, or it can produce really excellent results. So I'd say that, you know, compared to my let's say overtly contrarian perspective back in Thailand, I am reflecting a little bit on my my, let's say, knee-jerk reaction to what was happening sort of culturally at that time. I am more accepting of AI. I don't think it's useless, but I don't think that it is, you know, drive itself, you know, replacement for the human that's using it. And so if you are kind of getting to that space, you need to do exactly that. Take seriously your responsibility to know how to use it, because it is not going to take any responsibility for the results that it generates, especially if those are, you know, bad results. So yeah, I think that that's what I have to say about it.
I got one for Jen, if I may. Because I think one of the most exciting aspects about Yaru and the whole approach that Joshua is taking is that he's going to have hundreds of people building apps for God knows what, all over Southeast Asia and eventually all over the world. And all these builders, are they not going to be looking when they build on COTI, the first places they're going to start to look are the permissionless things in our ecosystem. So Joshua was talking about a guy with a burger chain. So let's say a guy has a burger chain. He has 10 different burger chains, and they may swap inventory with each other, and they could build a private stable coin. But if they were to do that, they would need to come and talk to you, Jen, because Carbon DeFi is, for now at least, the only permissionless place where they could actually have a facility like that to run, to have those transactions back and forth.
I think
you guys must be excited about that aspect of it.
Absolutely excited about it. I think what's so cool about it, and what's so cool about COTI, is you hear about different blockchains or projects where they deploy on a blockchain and they really virtually get no support. There's no communication between the actual blockchain and then the project that's there, right? And I've found since the very beginning with COTI, it's been the exact opposite. Right. So not only you have like the conversation's been going and the support has been going, but there's a lot of encouragement and there's a lot of, I want to say, like, connecting others, right? Like the entire reason that we were all at C Blockchain Week was to actually connect projects and like create this cohesive ecosystem, not just a bunch of individuals that happened to be there. Right. And so with this, there's so much collaboration. So I think two things. One, the way that Joshua is doing this, I think, is fantastic, because it also puts them all in contact with each other, right? They can kind of peer review this. They can bounce ideas off of each other. They can find different ways to collaborate and to enhance their own products based on what might be available to them within the ecosystem. So I think that's really interesting. And then, of course, anytime the ecosystem is expanding and there's this opportunity to collaborate with these projects and to have them on Carbon DeFi and to be able to help them, because creating your project is one kind of milestone. That's one goal, right? And then maybe having your token is the next, but then actually having those two be successful, right? There are things that go into it. It's not just deploy the project or, go live and then create a token. Right. Yeah. There's that kind of maintenance. There's a strategy behind this, right? Seeing that be successful. And so I think being able to connect with these different projects and to help them reach their other goals, also their actual on-chain goals, I think is really, really exciting. And then to kind of bounce them all off of each other because of the way that Carbon works. It's a really exciting time. I think the way that Joshua is doing it is fantastic for so many reasons. One of them selfishly for Carbon DeFi, right? But just in general as well. Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, it's settled. We all need to go back to Bangkok and sort this out.
Yes.
Speaking of Bangkok and Yaru, I did misquote this a little while ago. I told you guys I didn't have the exact numbers, but I got it close. As a final thought, I'm going to play this 17-second clip, and we can talk a little bit about why Bangkok, why Southeast Asia.
And you look across all of ASEAN, and we are within a 2-hour flight from roughly 1 billion people who are building, who are young, digitally native, etc. And we were within a 4 to 4.5 hour flight from about half of the world's population.
So this is why Bangkok was chosen as a way of tapping into what Joshua believes is the next 100 million low-code developers, creators. So, just final thoughts on that, you guys, before we bounce you out. I know we're over the hour, so if you had anything to say about that.
I'll say really quickly, just because I know Mark is the one who is speaking at the conferences and things like this, right? But I'm working like communicating all the time with community members and with event organizers and things. And Southeast Asia, it has been growing so rapidly from what I'm gathering, just that not just Bangkok, of course, not just Thailand, but all of the surrounding area has been building so much. There has become a serious interest in the industry, not just crypto, like I'm, buying and selling stuff on chain. It's the actual development, right? It's the technology, the blockchain that they're actually really interested in. So I think that was a wonderful place to really kind of put their feet down and to kind of build this foundation for Yaru. I think he's right. I think it's exposed them to so many that are up and coming and really wanting to become a valuable sort of contributor to the industry. So, Mark, what are your thoughts on it?
I think I share Jen's perspective, and I've done one call with Yaru, and honestly, I'm looking forward to coming back. I feel like we left some loose ends there, and I'd be interested to come back and tie them up.
And I have to say too, how fun was it when we were in Bangkok? Not just because we were all there, you know what I mean, actually connecting, but seeing the different submissions that came through the vibe coding. I thought some of them were just so creative, right? Like I wouldn't have thought of it. I wouldn't have thought that it could be created in the amount of time that it was using the tools that it was. So, I mean, I just think it's super cool. Big fan. What's happening?
And right on the heels of a major earthquake.
Yes.
That tells you everything you need to know, really, about how people are into this. Yeah, and if that earthquake had never happened, God knows how busy we would have been that week. It would have been absolutely mental.
Yeah, but it's still success, still great submissions. Sorry, Tracer, go ahead. I know that we got to end it. Womp womp.
No, yeah, it's just that, like, I was kind of thinking the same thing. Is like, I wish we could go back and do it again. You see some of the videos that Yaru has pushed, and it's like, this is what Joshua says, as Shahaf says, it's like standing room only. They can't get a chair. They don't have a room. Joshua showed us that he's expanding those kinds of, hosted co-working spaces so that they can have even bigger events on site at Yaru. So really cool, and it's funny, just the few ideas that we saw when we were in Bangkok, from the stablecoin projects to that deep dark secrets, talk to the AI, kind of like share your, like, it's so much cool stuff. Soren, did you have anything that you wanted to say before we kick this one off, sir?
Just one thing, please restart doing your podcast, you two, please. I enjoy them.
The blockchain banters. I will.
Yes. So Mark, as soon as you finish your paper, you need to get back on that horse, because there's such interesting discussions. I'm still waiting for part 2 with Eve and the other guy.
Yes, I can't.
Yeah.
It's funny. The official announcement never really happened. It was kind of the blockchain banter was where the unofficial announcement came through, but that's definitely still in the works. And they are wonderful guys. And the more I hear about RWAs and the regulatory end of it, right, the more respect I really have for the approach that they have taken. So definitely looking forward to part 2 on that. I would also like to have you guys and someone on from COTI to talk more about COTI Earn as well, what you guys are doing there and what sort of ways, the community can take advantage of that and kind of explore carbon DeFi throughout that process and benefit from it in more ways than just, their strategy creation also. So we'll definitely connect, and I appreciate the kind words about the podcast. It's definitely something that I have, I regretfully not had the time to do right now, but we'll make the time for. And thank you also too, before we end this really, really quickly, I see all the comments that are coming in here, whether it's on X or on YouTube. Some of them you're putting up there, Tracer, some of them you're not. But you guys have just such a wonderful community, and seeing the kind words about Mark and myself and Bancorn Carbon DeFi, I just want to give the love back to everybody there.
Yeah, when the comment section is blazing, that's like the best feeling as a streamer, right? So we've been thanking them very much. I gotta say, Mark, last chance. Is there anything you wanted to say before you jumped off? I thank you so much for being here, though, man. It's always so awesome.
No, it's my pleasure. No, I nothing else to say. I'm just super grateful that you guys have, so graciously hosted us again. And we shouldn't wait so long, I think, before doing this again.
Amazing. Thank you so
Agreed.
much. Please keep us up to date on your. I called the video Mark's secret. So please keep us up to date on that, because Soren and I have talked about that since the show more than once, just wondering what's going on there. And I can't believe it. It's season 2, episode 38 already. Lots of stuff going on at Bancor, Carbon, Arb Fastlane, new partners with COTI. It's been a crazy year. Q4 is looking juicy. Let's hope we keep the momentum. So thank you for being here from coast to coast and around the world. This is COTI Confidential, signing off. Take care, everyone.
Symmetric flow, one way to go. Buy low when the market dips. Sell high, link the curves. Collateral shifts, no need to think. Gamma 0 to 1, constant price of product. P0 reference, X0 risk. Hyperbolic edge, barometric twist. Carbon ignites, FI ignites. Strategies loop by seller pipe. MEV block, no sandwich. Concentrated power, capital tight. Servers adjust, on-chain flight. Carbon ignites, FI ignite. Orders live, peak without the close. Range bound bids, where the action grows. No impermanent lows, just trading views. Bid as fees, market maker cues. Link passports, Ethereum core. Arbitrage by ton from banker rules to future floors. Decentralized orders, open doors. Gamma bends, invariant soul. Carbon evolves, stories untold. The fire remain, and cold we trust. Asymmetric dust, parametric dust.
Instead of going out and throwing grant money away or throwing grants at random hackathons that offer you $1 million prizes and people come and farm that hackathon, suddenly we can begin to find builders who have very promising organizations like Sid, the 16-year-old we just talked in Cambodia who just launched a hamburger business at 17 years old and had a successful exit. Suddenly we can reach those people who have an interest on building on blockchain. And instead of throwing that money away to people who are farming hackathons, we can use that to grant people who are building legitimate real-world projects and services using COTI as a back end, and then see them creating the content that propels their business forward and kind of advertising the COTI name alongside of them. And so we get a lot more out of what you would typically do in a Web3 grants program.